Hey, what's going on, weavers? Tim here again, and in today's video we are making a paracord mask. So just to be clear about the actual purpose and usage of this mask during the current climate we live in, please read the pinned comment down below for additional information. However, if you're watching this video much later, this mask can also be great for a costume, Halloween, cosplay, or even LARPing, as you can customize the colors, the look of the mask as you see fit. So that being said, let's make a paracord Conquistador mask. In terms of materials, this paracord mask will be primarily using 550 paracord with some shock cord and a small piece of thinner diameter cord like microcord or type 1 paracord. To start this mask off, I'm going to take my longest strand of navy paracord and roughly measure out about a 5-inch section of the paracord in between my fingers. And then I'm going to put a bend in it. And then I'm going to bring it back to the standing end. From there, I'm going to start coiling my paracord around the two strands going away from me. You can either wrap the cord by moving your hand around the cords, or you can rotate the whole thing with your left hand, and what I'm aiming to get is about 20 coils wrapped around. Once you get to the end of the loop, you're going to feed the terminal end of your cord through that loop. From there, you're going to close that loop by holding the entire coil in one hand and then pulling down on the standing end. This will tighten up the loop and get all the coils in line. Now with my fid on the running end, I'm going to start my Conquistador weave on this coil. I'm going to go from left to right. And each loop goes in from the right side of the loop to the left. When doing this, ensure that the terminal end finishes on the outside of the loop or the back side from this point of view. You're going to continue this process of making these Conquistador loops all the way across the coil to the other side. At this point, you'll want to ensure that you have 20 loops going across. If you come up one loop short, you can always do an extra loop through the last coil. If you want to make this mask wider, however, you will have to add more loops and make it longer. A common mistake you might make is pulling the fid towards you and to the wrong side of the Conquistador loop. So make sure you keep that fid on the outside. In this case, that's the back of the loop. When you've reached the other side, you're going to continue the Conquistador weaving by going back the way you came. It'll be a lot easier now because the loops are angled. Notice how the loops are angled towards me. This is how you want to hold the paracord. Once again, I'm going from left to right if I were to hold the piece horizontally. And I want to insert the fid on the right side of the loops, or from this perspective, the side of the loop that's facing me. So continue this pattern of weaving the Conquistador knots going back and forth to start building up the bottom half of the mask. As you continue to weave the Conquistador knots, you'll notice that the entire piece will naturally curve. And this is a good thing as the mask takes shape. I'm going to weave approximately 14 rows of the Conquistador weave. However, you can make this larger or smaller based on the size of your face. You will have to adjust the amount of paracord used, of course. Make sure you keep those Conquistador loops nice and tight and very consistent so that the pattern overall is very consistent. Now, once I've completed this bottom half of the mask, I'm going to get my black piece of paracord and tie a simple overhand knot in one end. I'm then going to attach my fid and go through one of the loops on the side of where my previous strand finished and pull all the cord through. Working from this orientation, you can see that we can now continue the Conquistador weave. However, this time, I'm only going to weave it halfway across the bottom piece for 10 loops. You're going to use the exact same method going across, and remember to insert the fid on the leading side of the loops. So just keep doing those conquistador loops to the middle of the mask piece. Once I've done my 10 loops, I'm then going to reverse direction and go back the way I came. I'll start weaving back towards where I started. However, this time I will stop one loop short of where I began. What this is going to do is start to create the angled piece on the top side of the mask. So the process now is to continue weaving your conquistador weave, but every time you come back to the outside edge of the mask, you're going to stop one loop short so that the conquistador weave gradually starts to taper. And as I progress, you can see the conquistador pattern starting to narrow as I go up because I'm doing one less conquistador loop at the end of each section. And that is always towards the outside edge of the mask. You're going to do this process until you've come down to 3 loops, and that's where you're going to stop. This is where the mask will rest on the bridge of your nose. To do the second half, I'm going to use my second piece of black paracord and tie an overhand knot like before. I'm then going to start my conquistador weave again, but this time from the middle of the mask, and I'm going to anchor my cord through one of the conquistador loops on the inside of the mask. From there, when I move the cord to the outside of the mask, I'm in the perfect position to continue weaving to do the exact same thing on this side. I'm weaving 10 loops to start, but each time I get to the outside edge of the mask, I'm stopping one loop short. And from here, we are just really repeating what we did on the opposite side. However, instead of starting from the outside edge of the mask, we are continuing the conquistador weave from the inside mask. So it's the exact same process. So now we have both sides of the mask woven. I'm going to clip off a few of my excess cords, except for one of them. I'm snipping and melting the excess navy blue cords and one of the black cords, but I'm leaving a bit of excess cord on the black cord that ends closer to the gap in the middle of the mask. This is just to make it easier when I'm stitching the center gap. So just be careful when melting as usual, as you've got a lot of paracord around the excess cords. Which is of course why I like using a jet lighter, so that I can be more precise with what I'm singeing. And from here, we are just really repeating what we did on the opposite side. However, instead of starting from the outside edge of the mask, we are continuing the conquistador weave from the inside mask. So it's the exact same process. And in fact, for my particular mask, I actually forgot to do one less loop on the second row, but everything turned out fine at the end. Now I've got a small piece of type 1 paracord, which is 100 paracord in between 90 and 275. I've got fids on both ends, and I'm going to go through the 2 vertical loops at the very top of the inside of the mask. I'm then going to take the cord on the left and bring it over to the right side and go back through the same way from the right to the left, making a loop to anchor it down. And this stitch is actually very similar to a stitch I used to make the leather coverings on my Monkey's Fist backhand impact tools. To stitch this seam shut, I'm going to cross my strands over. And from the next set of vertical loops, I'm going to take the right side strand and go through from the right to the left. And then the left side strand goes from the left through to the right. After that, I will just repeat crossing these strands over each time before stitching them back the way they came, forming these kind of X stitches going down the seam. Once I've gotten down to the bottom, I'm going to cross the strands over and do the same anchor I did up top, going back through those same vertical bottom loops. From there, just pull tight and snip off the excess cords and melt the ends. Now to add our elastic ear loops, I've got some 1/4 inch shock cord. If you don't have shock cord, you can just use regular 550. I'm going to tie a scaffold knot at one end by wrapping the end around my finger twice, and then bringing the running end back to the left side and then going through the 2 loops I created and then pull tight. Then with my shock cord on a fid, I'm going to go through the bottom corner of my mask from the front or the side facing out to the inside of the mask. From there, I'll go through a loop on the angled side of the mask. The position of this part will depend on your personal preference, as everyone's faces and ears are at slightly different angles and sizes. I went through just above the midpoint. Once the shock cord is out through the front, you'll have to tie another scaffold knot and adjust the length of your loops to fit your face comfortably. If you have any excess cord, just snip it off and give it a quick touch with the lighter. But don't melt it for too long, as the rubber in the shock cord will start to burn and give off nasty fumes, so just a quick touch to singe the outer sheath. And there we have it, guys, a paracord mask. This mask was really made for the love of the game, and that is paracord crafting. Got a few comments about making one, and I was really intrigued to see if it could be done. So if you're one of those people that suggested it, thank you. And please do not forget to read the pinned comment down below regarding the actual usage of this type of mask. That being said, a huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you want access to exclusive tutorials, as well as our Discord server, feel free to check out my Patreon page, link in the video cards as well as down below. You can join for as little as $3 a month. You can also support this channel by liking the video and commenting. Also, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out what I have to offer on the rest of my channel.